We've received nearly 50 emails, maybe more, about the disappearance of truck driver David Schultz, and we appreciate the overwhelming public interest. But here at the Missing 411 podcast, we observe a vital rule. We don't rush the initial coverage. We wait for the facts to distill, because those first few weeks are often polluted with sensationalism and premature theories. We were tracking this from day one, patiently gathering the pieces. When a man driving a semi-truck vanishes, the standard police procedure considers so many common possibilities. Was he fleeing a debt? Was it an extreme case of road rage? Could it be a simple, tragic accident in the night? We need to filter out those mundane, yet terrible scenarios to find the true signal of an anomaly. Our work here is to differentiate a typical missing person case from one bearing the chilling, indelible mark of the Missing 411 phenomenon. What makes this case truly resonate with the unexplained is how perfectly it conforms to the patterns we see in the deepest wilderness. We are talking about the complete failure of search dogs to hold a scent, the sudden termination of a trail, and the inexplicable abandonment of essential clothing. This striking, almost haunting set of coincidences occurring not on a mountain trail, but on a desolate Iowa road tells us we are dealing with forces beyond the ordinary. The man we are focusing on is David Schultz, 53 years old, a steady, reliable truck driver, husband, and father who disappeared on November 21st, 2023. Physically, he was 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, not a man who would simply disappear into the air. By all accounts, he was a pillar of his family and his small business. His vanishing point is not a place of chaos or crime, but a place of profound, rural silence. We turn now to a crucial, potentially terrifying detail. David had high blood pressure. Followers of the Missing 411 research know why this matters. An alarming number of individuals who fall into our profiles, those who vanish without a trace, possess a minor, yet documented medical condition. It's not a visible injury. It's a quiet vulnerability. Sarah confirmed this fact. For us, it's an immediate, screaming indicator that David fit the profile for an anomalous event. David was a family man, focused on his twin boys, and eager to return home for the holidays, a life deeply rooted in stability. He was an owner-operator, fixing up a second truck, looking toward the future. His departure on November 20th was routine. A kiss goodbye, a quick meal, and he was off to pick up his cargo, a load of baby pigs. A simple night's work that ended in an absolute void. The first crack in the facade of stability came the next day, around noon. Sarah wasn't immediately worried, but her alarm became absolute when David's employer showed up. David had missed his scheduled delivery in Sac City, a failure unheard of for a man so dedicated. The employer was worried about the thousands of dollars of hogs, but his genuine fear was for David. Knowing this behavior was a complete betrayal of his character. Realizing the gravity of the silence, Sarah reported David as missing at 2:23 p.m. on November 21st. The official search began. In the investigation of the unexplained, every minute is a lost opportunity. But just 41 minutes later, the first, most baffling piece of evidence emerged, establishing the exact location where David Schultz was last present in our reality. At 3:04 p.m., a Sac County road employee reported finding a large semi-truck inexplicably stopped dead in the northbound lane of a rural road near Sac City. It was sitting there, silent and still, surrounded only by the endless cornfields. The Lakeview police arrived first, finding the truck abandoned, its engine cold, the driver gone, a scene that immediately suggested something profoundly wrong. What they found inside the truck defies all logical motives for a traditional crime. The key was in the ignition. The cargo was untouched. David's cell phone was in its holder, accessible. But most critically, his wallet, containing $2,000 in cash, was left sitting right on the dashboard. This rules out simple robbery. It wasn't a panicked flight. It was an abandonment of all means of modern survival. Sarah confirmed the cash was normal for David as he paid for most things using bills. This detail, intended to provide comfort, only deepens the mystery. Why walk away from your cash, your vehicle, and your life? The scene was left sterile, a tableau of David's last conscious acts. It sat there, a massive, unlocked machine, bearing witness to its driver's terrifying, silent vanishing. Imagine the officers arriving at this desolate location. A colossal truck stopped mid-route, surrounded by miles of silent, dark cornfields. The immediate thought was a medical emergency, but why step out into the cold night and leave your essentials? The search radius began immediately, but the air around the truck felt charged, heavy, with an unnatural silence. A canine unit was deployed, and the dog quickly located David's coat. It was found in a deep ditch near the cornfield, violently tossed or simply dropped. Inside, only his standard pocket knife, a small towel, and a phone charger. Why would a man, in the chill of a late November night, remove his coat just steps from his warm cab? The most terrifying element of this entire investigation is what happened next. The dog tracked right to the coat, but a few paces past it, the scent trail abruptly and completely terminated. Cut off. This is a signature event in the missing 411 database. David did not walk away. He was not dragged. His presence was instantly and cleanly removed from that precise point in space. Law enforcement immediately brought in thermal imaging planes and 150 ground searchers. They scoured the cornfields in grid patterns, searching under every stalk, every rock. Yet, just like the vast majority of our profiled cases, the tremendous effort yielded nothing. David was simply not in the area where he physically vanished. The volunteer search efforts were massive, spearheaded by the United Cajun Navy. The scope and dedication were immense. But during this intense search, a separate, grim discovery was made. A completely unrelated missing man, deceased in his car, found only a few miles away. This shocking coincidence only added a layer of profound, cosmic horror to the search for David. We turn back to the timeline and the cell phone data. David was last confirmed on video at 11:15 p.m. at a truck stop. The phone data then places his device arriving at the final location in Douglas Township at 12:18 a.m. This hour defines the end of his known existence. The truck's stopping point is utterly illogical. David had driven past his Sac City delivery point. He knew these roads. The idea of him simply missing the turn and then stopping in the middle of a desolate road is a complete abandonment of his professional character. Something forced him to stop, or something caused him to err immediately upon entering this specific area. The area around the truck has been searched 3 times, the sheriff confirmed, but we know this means very little. Our historical data shows that searchers can often walk right past a subject who is concealed. The clean abandonment of the cash and the key remains the true mystery, pointing away from mundane theft and toward an unexplained anomaly. Camera footage confirmed David was the sole occupant of the truck prior to it stopping. This is vital. It means whatever happened to him alone. He was not ambushed by a passenger, nor was he tailing anyone. He encountered something on that empty road, forcing him to stop, and then he was immediately and silently removed. The investigative process confirmed no human flight. David did not cross the Canadian border, and all traditional runaway vectors came up empty. He did not suddenly decide to abandon his family and his life. Every logical path for a voluntary disappearance has been completely closed off. Then came the strange synchronicity, the discovery of another David Schultz, who flew from Minneapolis to Phoenix after the vanishing. While confirmed to be a different individual, the reappearance of the same name is a bizarre, unsettling pattern we see documented repeatedly in missing 411 files. It's as if the phenomenon itself uses these subtle duplications to introduce an element of manufactured chaos. Driven by desperation, Sarah turned to psychics. One offered a vague hope David was alive in a room somewhere. The second offered a terrifying scenario. He was struck and placed in a fast-moving body of water. Neither theory gave any actionable intelligence, but they capture the emotional turmoil of a family grasping at straws in the absence of any real answers. Let us entertain the hypothesis of extreme road rage. A conflict escalates. Someone violently pulls David from the cab. They grab his coat, ripping it off, and throw it into the ditch. But then why would they leave the truck, the keys, and the $2,000? A struggle leading to abduction would leave physical evidence and a clear drag scent. The scene has neither. The coat, violently removed or discarded, marks the boundary of his existence. Was he overheated, suffering from his high blood pressure and trying to cool down? Unlikely. More likely, a sudden, explosive event, either a human ambush or something completely non-human, caused him to shed this layer of clothing before he was seized. The clean termination of his scent right there is the final, terrifying clue. We must now consider the non-traditional hypotheses. There are whispers, unconfirmed reports of anomalous lights, possible UFO disappearances in Sac County in the weeks before David vanished. Could a silent craft have descended utilizing some technology capable of instantaneous extraction, leaving behind the sterile, evidence-free scene? It would explain why the scent abruptly vanished. The sterile scene and the terminated scent trail perfectly align with the theory of a dimensional rift. David steps out, perhaps to check a strange noise or adjust his trailer. In that brief moment, a silent, localized slip in the fabric of space-time opens, drawing him in. The coat, the item of clothing most easily shed, is the last thing to fall, marking the point where he was completely erased from our reality. We consider the cargo baby pigs. While seemingly unrelated, in cases this anomalous, we scrutinize every detail. The pigs were unharmed, secured in the trailer. This confirms the pigs were not the target. They simply became silent, live witnesses to an event that occurred immediately outside the cab. This case adds to a growing, disturbing pattern of disappearances involving truckers in Iowa. A rural agricultural state is becoming an inexplicable nexus for these vanishing events, much like certain national parks are. Is there a geological or energetic component to this region that makes it a focus for these non-traditional anomalies? We are certain that the investigative agencies know more than they are publicly stating. This is not necessarily malice. It is often to protect the investigation or to shield the public from truly frightening, non-traditional findings. When the trail is this cold, the secrets are often less about a clear suspect and more about the inexplicable anomaly they are struggling to classify. Based on our research, the most logical discovery point for David Schultz, assuming he was not instantly taken, is still within that 2-mile radius of the abandoned truck. His profile does not suggest long-distance travel on foot, especially without a coat. The fields must be searched again. We implore the volunteers to coordinate a true shoulder-to-shoulder search. This method requires searchers to physically maintain a near-touching distance, walking slowly down every row of corn. No detail, no slight depression in the earth can be missed. The answer to his vanishing, if physical, is concealed within those crops. If David's high blood pressure led to a catastrophic medical event, a stroke or heart attack, he could have collapsed instantly upon leaving the truck. His body, falling into a drainage ditch or a slight depression, could be completely obscured by the corn, invisible to all but the most dedicated search effort. The initial searches were performed quickly, under the pressure of time and adverse weather. High winds and cold degrade scent and create search blind spots. A methodical, renewed effort, utilizing the slow, deliberate, shoulder-to-shoulder technique, is essential to cover ground that may have been missed in the initial, frantic hours. We cannot forget the emotional reality of Sarah, Isaac, and Joseph. The father and sole supporter of the family is gone. The constant, gnawing lack of closure is a form of psychological torture, compounded by the time of year. Our focus is ultimately on bringing peace to this family. The United Cajun Navy and the local truckers community have demonstrated the profound power of collective compassion. Their massive effort proves that when an inexplicable void opens, the community will mobilize to fill it. This unified support is the greatest countermeasure against the fear the anomaly seeks to sow. We put out the call again. If you were on Highway 71 or Highway 20 near the Sac City area between 11:30 p.m. on November 20th and 7 a.m. on November 21st, please come forward. Even if you saw nothing unusual, your presence on the road could help create a definitive traffic timeline. We respect the tireless work of the authorities, but we urge them to consider the anomalous possibilities. Look beyond human suspects. Scrutinize the ditch where the coat was found for any evidence of ground-level disturbance, any strange geological or energetic signature. The criminal case may be cold because the answer is not a crime. We study the history of missing 411 cases to find the lesson. We study the sudden onset, the inexplicable choices, the missing clothing. This history strongly suggests David Schultz did not simply leave. He was acted upon by a force that respects neither logic nor the laws of physics. The family deserves closure. Whether the cause of his disappearance is a tragic human event or the terrifying manifestation of a dimensional anomaly, they need to know. The continuing, deafening silence is the greatest cruelty of the entire vanishing. The audacity of this disappearance, a large man, his truck, his money, all abandoned on a regular road, is a profound warning. It proves that the unexplained forces we document are not confined to the deep woods. They are here, in the cornfields of Iowa, making their presence known in our most ordinary environments. We do not have the answer, but we will not stop seeking it. We ask everyone to keep David Schultz and his family in your thoughts. Share this story, respect the family's privacy, and understand that the only way to combat the terror of the unexplained is with continued public focus. We need to find David Schultz.